A blessed day to all the participants of this first National Research Forum on the Black Nazarene. It is a blessing for me that I am able to talk to you and to discuss to you the research that I have made for this conference regarding the different shrines dedicated to the Black Nazarene here in the Philippines. To start, I am Brother Kendrick Ivan B. Panganiban, a Catholic author based in Hagonoy, Bulacan, and I have recently published a book entitled The Role of Shrines in View of the New Evangelization, Pope Francis' Theology on Shrines and Pilgrimages Applied in the Philippine Context by Claretian Publications in 2021. This book allows us to see the different aspects of evangelization in our shrines, in our pilgrimage centers. And I know that our shrines are very, very valuable to us today, especially now that we are celebrating 500 years of Christianity here in our country. And from here, we would like to introduce the different shrines dedicated to the Black Nazarene. I think this is important as we do the research regarding the Black Nazarene devotion because from the originating place where this devotion came about in Quiapo, we come to understand that this devotion is not only in Quiapo but it also belongs to all of the Filipino people. And this can be witnessed by the different shrines that have been erected in different places outside of Quiapo, outside of its originating place of devotion. That is why we're going to discuss Quiapo itself as a pilgrimage place and of course the different places that have been inspired by this devotion here in our country. Quiapo Church itself was founded in the year 1586 as a parish dedicated to Saint John the Baptist. It is beside the river Pasig, and it is for this reason that it became a good place for a church because it is close to the different modes of transportation and it is also near the different marketplaces of that time. Even up to now, Quiapo is a bustling district in Manila and it serves as one of the hubs of the different industries that are already present within the city of Manila. And this is something that has become a special thing for the church itself because the availability and the access that this area has allows us to see how in the past, during the Spanish era up to the present, many people can come to Quiapo. It was in 1787 that the image of the Black Nazarene was brought to the Church of Quiapo from the Intramuros district in Manila. And it was from this time that the parish of Quiapo did not just become an ordinary church. It was visited by various pilgrims, not only from the city of Manila, but even from the other provinces. And as time went on through the centuries, it was this impetus of devotion that allowed Quiapo to be what it is today, a vibrant center of pilgrimage and devotion that we know from this point on in our lives. Every day, even if we are not in Quiapo, we know that the 9th of January will always be a special day for all Filipino Catholics because it is now a day of devotion to the Nazareno and it is already part of our culture. And it was recognized by the church. That's why in the year 1987, the Church of Quiapo, this vibrant center of pilgrimage, became a minor basilica. It became a papal church, a sign of the faith of the people to Christ here in our country and also in different parts of Asia. In order for us to understand what I am going to discuss with you with regards Quiapo Church, we must first understand the different documents that have been discussed by the church and issued throughout the years when it comes to pilgrimages and shrines. So there are 5 essential documents that we must understand in order for us to look into the different aspects of this talk. And this forms 7 aspects. 7 aspects of shrines in the new evangelization that I summarized in this book. These 7 are being a center of the worship of God through the sacraments, the center of proclamation and witnessing through different forms of media, through preaching, and through the different works of evangelization. A center of devotion by having a unique devotion to a certain patron, of being able to aspire for greater glory of God through popular piety. Then it is also a center of catechesis because it has become a venue of different events concerning the life of the church, of the teachings of the Holy Father. It is also a center of cultural encounter because people come here to learn about the culture of the people, the faith that becomes part of the culture, which is what we call now as enculturation. There is also a center for charitable work, where this church is not only a symbol of the faith, but also a symbol of good works. Then it is also, lastly, a center for spiritual ecumenism, where it becomes a common ground for the different kinds of people from different beliefs to gather together in order to pray and to appreciate the beauty of communion. Because of these different aspects, we are able to evaluate, to give an assessment of these shrines. And if we're going to put this framework in Quiapo Church as we know it today, we can discover how Quiapo Church is performing or is excelling as a place of pilgrimage. So let's begin. If we say that Quiapo is a center of worship, we can see it from the different liturgical activities that are happening in the place. For example, if we're going to look into the liturgical scheme of Quiapo now, there are 12 masses during Sundays. In First Fridays, the special day for the Black Nazarene, there are 16 masses. During the second and fourth Fridays, there are 14 masses. And another special thing is during the Traslacion on January 9, where from the early morning up to the evening, there are masses in the Basilica, 21 to be exact. And also, Quiapo is one of the most vibrant places for the sacrament of confession. As we know, we are going to Quiapo for confession during the time of before the pandemic, every 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And now, even during the time of the pandemic, we are still celebrating confessions in Quiapo from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And this is one of the signs that Quiapo is truly effective as a center for worship because the sacraments are readily available even during the time of the pandemic. Quiapo can also be considered as a center of proclamation and witnessing. When it comes to the pastoral setup of Quiapo, we have one rector, two parochial vicars, which is enough, of course, for a normal parish. But because this is a center of pilgrimage, there are also other priests who help Quiapo. And at present, there are 51 registered assistant clerics in Quiapo and one retired bishop who has volunteered to become a minister in Quiapo. These many clerics can be seen as a sign of the due diligence, the aspirations of the Archdiocese of Manila to maintain Quiapo as a vibrant center of pilgrimage. Because through these priests, the sacraments are readily available for any pilgrim who comes to this place. When it comes to basic ecclesial communities, the parish of Quiapo founded theirs in 2006. Then they have their regular formation every second Sunday and regular Bible studies in third Sunday. And also another important thing is social media. Quiapo Church has its own IT and social communications department. It is also interesting because they have their own website. They also have their own Facebook. They have their Instagram, Twitter. And now at present, Quiapo Church also has a mobile application, downloadable both in Apple and in Android. And these are signs for the development of this shrine, of this place of pilgrimage. Even during the pandemic, the social media has transformed religious activities, taking its sphere of influence beyond the spaces of worship, beyond the four corners of the church. It is also now available through the different forms of social media that we now have. And it is very interesting for us to see how the social media has grown. Because if we're going to look on the six major shrines, the six most known shrines in the country, Quiapo Church has the most number of followers because of its dynamic schedule of activities which goes on a regular basis. At the moment, Quiapo Church has 3,581,963 followers, followed by the Manila Cathedral with 800,000 followers, the Basilica of the Santo Niño of Cebu that has 692 followers, Baclaran Church in Parañaque to the Mother of Perpetual Help that has 463,000 followers, the Basilica of Our Lady of Piat in Cagayan, which has 351,000 followers, and the National Shrine of Our Lady of Peace and Good Voyage in Antipolo, Rizal, that has 187,000 followers. From here, we can see how great is the influence that Quiapo Church now has here in our country, in the Philippines. As a center of devotion, one cannot deny how Quiapo has become a vibrant center of devotion throughout the years. Fridays in Manila is now called Quiapo Friday because everyone goes to Quiapo during that day. And even in outside parishes, outside of Quiapo, we can see how people have their own images of the Black Nazarene in their churches. And they go about on doing the procession during Fridays because Fridays has become the particular day of devotion for the Black Nazarene. We have, of course, the traslacion, the historic transfer of the image from the present site of Quirino Grandstand, which was formerly the place of the old church, then going to the new church in Quiapo. And this has become an important event, not only in the citywide level, but even in a national scale, because of all of the pilgrims that are going to Quiapo during that day. We can also see how Quiapo celebrates the Holy Week. It is also one of the most anticipated liturgical events during the time of the liturgical year in Manila because we celebrate the different aspects of the passion, death, and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ. And of course, the Nazareno image is an image of Christ in His passion. There is also a large network, a very, very huge network of devotees, of active volunteers of the Quiapo Church, and those are the Hijos del Nazareno. And we know that there are at least 6 or I think now 7 different groups that are forming this very large brotherhood of devotees to the Nazareno. There is also the replicas of the Nazareno that are not only distributed to parishes, but they are also brought in pastoral visits to different churches across the Philippines. Because of this, there is now a recognition of the image of the Nazareno. It is now a staple image, a common image seen in different churches because of the familiarity of the devotees both in Manila and across of Manila to the Black Nazarene. And of course, lastly, there is the paghahaplos, the constant effort of Filipinos to touch the image because touching the image of the Nazareno means for them touching God and having God touch their own lives. And that makes the Quiapo Church a really vibrant center of devotion. When it comes to catechesis, surely Quiapo has proven also to become a good place where people converge together. Just imagine if we're going to look into the records of the Manila Police Department and the National Parks and Development Committee. Through the 5 years from 2016 to 2020, there was a large increase on the pilgrims. So in 2016, there was an estimated number of 1,000,000 pilgrims in Quiapo, going to 1,500,000 to 4 million in 2018. Then in 2020, even during the pandemic, there were still 3 million pilgrims going to Quiapo from Quirino Grandstand. Another sign of this catechetical effort is what we call the Marian meeting rites. The moments when the images of the Blessed Virgin Mary in churches that are near Quiapo Church participate in the annual Traslación of January 9. And they are able to participate by allowing their images to be seen outside of their churches for them to meet the Son, their Mary's Son, the Nazareno, during his procession from Quirino Grandstand to Quiapo. So these activities, these efforts to have Marian meetings, to have a dialogue, a sort of diorama of the Nazareno going up to Quiapo. That's why the route from Quiapo to Antipolo can actually be considered a pilgrimage route. It could even be declared perhaps in the future as a national or an international pilgrimage route. And if we're going to visit Quiapo itself, Quiapo has its own rector office or office of formation. And these offices allow the different pilgrims to be accommodated, to get in touch with the image of the Nazarene, for them to recognize the different aspects of the devotion and how they are able to become part of that devotion. Now, we can say that Quiapo is also a center of spiritual ecumenism because it has collaborated in the past with the Manila Archdiocese and Ministry on ecumenical and interfaith affairs. It has had various collaborations with different movements, for example, the Silsila Dialogue Movement for the Muslims. Then, recently in 2021, they had a partnership with IRIST Interfaith for one of the first virtual ecumenical conferences to be held in the Philippines. And this allows us to see that Quiapo is not only about the Catholics that are there, but also in collaboration with the different Christian denominations, with the different religions in the Quiapo community. Quiapo, and of course, we also seen as a center of charitable work. It has the Lord of the Black Nazarene Foundation, which is one of the unique setups for a basilica because its foundation, based on the devotees of the basilica, is able to give to those in need regularly. For example, it has programs of outreach to give to children and to those who are poor in impoverished communities. They also have legal and medical assistance for different peoples with certain needs, especially when it comes to times of destitution. So, Quiapo Church does not only become a place where you pray or where you entrust yourself to the mercy of God, there's also a place where you can have a helping hand. Then lastly, it is a center of culture because Quiapo Church itself was founded as one of the special churches in Manila, and it has developed throughout the years and even can be seen as a cultural icon because of the different contributions that have been done in Quiapo Church in the past. For example, one of the famous national artists for architecture, Architect Juan F. Nakpil, was the one who designed the 1935 design of the Quiapo Church. Then, even after the Second World War, when the remains of the church were preserved, it was enlarged. And it was enlarged by another famous architect, Architect Jose Maria Zaragoza. And it is actually the current design that we see today. If you're going to look even to the national cultural marker of the shrine, we can see that it was placed there in 1938. It means that even during that time, it is already considered one of the important cultural properties of the Philippines. And if we're going to look at the PRECAP, or the Philippine Registry for Cultural Property, Quiapo Church itself is considered a tangible, immovable national cultural property. And the Traslación, the very January 9 event that has been influential not only in Manila but across the nation, is an intangible cultural property of the city of Manila. Because of this, we can understand that Quiapo is now part of our culture. The Black Nazarene is part of the Filipino culture. And this can also be further realized when we see now the different shrines that have been established outside of Manila, outside of Quiapo. It is like bringing Quiapo to these different provinces, to these different parts of the Philippines, saying that these communities are also part of Quiapo. So there are 4 different shrines that can be found outside of Manila that are dedicated to the Black Nazarene. The first in Luzon is the Diocesan Shrine of the Pong Jesús Nazareno. It is found in Solano, Nueva Vizcaya, in the Diocese of Bayambong. It was founded as a parish dedicated to Saint Louis Beltran, a Dominican friar, in 1735. Then it received the Callejero image from have a shrine, to have the church prepared to become a center of pilgrimage for the devotees of the Nazareno. Then that Callejero image that came to Bayambong, the Diocese of Bayambong, was later on donated to the diocese. And that place where the Nazareno came to by the parish of Solano was declared as the diocesan shrine. And it formally housed the image until there was an oratory that was established near the church itself, and it became the new home of the Callejero image of the Nazareno, which is now a property of the diocese. Then there is also another image in Camarines Norte, which is different from the Quiapo image because it was endemic in that place. The image of the Nazareno in the Diocesan Shrine of the Black Nazarene of Capalonga in Camarines Norte was a different image from that of the Quiapo image. Although they're both black, but because this image was brought in that place during the time when the Franciscans founded that parish in 1664. Then the devotion of Our Lady of the Black Nazarene in Capalonga grew, and the devotees who came to Capalonga were not actually pure-blooded Filipinos. They were actually Chinese Filipinos. That's why there were not only Filipino churches in the area, but there is also a area in the church that served the Chinese community. So they are doing the inculturated practices there of the kowtow, of offering incense to the image of the Nazareno. And because of this vibrant devotion that grew among the local people of Capalonga and the Chinese Filipinos in Capalonga, it was this reason that the Diocese of M.A.Th that covers the parish of Capalonga declared it as a diocesan shrine in 2009. The 4th shrine is the Diocesan Shrine of Nuestro Padre Jesús Nazareno in Catarman in northern Samar. It is the only shrine dedicated to the Black Nazarene in the Visayas region. And it eventually became a parish when it was also declared as a shrine in 2016. It is the first and only at the moment in the Visayas region. And in 2021, the shrine partnered with the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Annunciation in Catarman for the diocesan penitential walk. So the shrine is not just a different place from the cathedral itself, but it became spiritual linked with the Cathedral of Catarman. Then the last shrine, the 5th shrine, is the Archdiocesan Shrine and Parish of Jesús Nazareno in Cagayan de Oro City. This is unique because of this, the Shrine of the Nazareno was declared as the center of pilgrimage of the Black Nazarene devotion in 2012. And since then, all of these places in Cagayan de Oro, in northern Samar, in Bayambong, in Capalonga, joined Quiapo during the translation because they also have their own simultaneous translation. So that there is also a recognition of the Nazareno devotion not only in Quiapo but in different pilgrimage centers across the country. And these shrines become participants to the nationwide Quiapo devotion, the nationwide devotion to the Black Nazarene. That is now, as I already said a while ago, become part and parcel of the Filipino culture because of our understanding that this suffering Christ, this image of the blessed Son of God, is able to bless us and is able to be one with us in our sufferings. So, before we end this talk, we recognize how Quiapo, how the other shrines in the Black Nazarene become centers of the Catholics and to be able to share the gospel of Christ to others. And it is these qualities that are connected to the Lord that make Quiapo an important place because of mercy, of healing, and of oneness in the suffering of the people. And because of all of this, when we see Quiapo, we see the Philippines. When we see Quiapo, we see the Filipino people united together in that faith in Christ. Thank you very much, and may the Black Nazarene be always a sign of mercy for all of us here.